everyone. Hello and welcome to the new moon, the full moon in Sidereal Gemini releasing workshop. I'm Phaedra, for those of you who are new to the broadcast, and some of you might actually be joining us for the first time tonight because I realized earlier today that I haven't been emailing all of you to let you know in advance when these are happening. And so I fixed that. If you signed up to get email notifications, you will be getting them. Going forward, I thought I had all of you situated to get notified, and I didn't, but that's all been fixed. So, thank you for joining me. So, with these broadcasts, what we like to do, my aim really is to provide guidance for you on how we can consciously use the energy of the transiting planets to affect our lives in a positive way. And so, what you may need to do is look up your sidereal sign placements. There's an online calculator that you can use, and I just need to pull up the broadcast real quick before we get too much further. So I want to make sure that I have it live in case I need to catch anyone's comments. And is that it? That's the broadcast right there. Okay, I want to make sure I was actually live in the group. For a moment, I thought I might not be live in the group, but I was live in the group. Okay, so we've got the broadcast pulled up, and that way if anyone has questions or comments, or if you just want to, join in the conversation as we go along tonight, please do. I'm Phaedra. I'm the artist and astrologer of Mystick, Physick, Astrology, and I use Western Sidereal Astrology in my practice to kind of help folks reconnect with their soul purpose and remember why they came. And so I'm going to give you a link to the sidereal chart calculator real quick. And that way, if anyone is joining us and doesn't have their chart, you can look it up real quick. Just pop your birth data into the fields at that site and you can get your sidereal placements. And so what we're really focusing on tonight primarily is we want to know your sidereal rising sign. But you can also do this practice with your sidereal sun sign. And so you may want to note both. We'll also be talking, though, about some specific signs and degrees tonight as we talk a little bit more in depth about this particular full moon itself. And so you may want to have a printout handy because you'll want to be able to look up particular signs and degrees specifically to see if you have any planets or points making contact with the January eclipses when we get to that part of the conversation. But thanks everyone for joining me. Tonight what we're going to do is we're going to explore the Gemini archetypes and themes that are most relevant to our releasing practice. We're going to talk a little bit about this particular full moon specifically and what we can expect out of this full moon. And then we'll talk about the Gemini archetypes and themes a little more in depth, and we'll explore those themes to help you recognize where you can let go of what's not serving you any longer. The full moon is a great time to do that. This is the perfect opportunity to release outdated stories that you have been telling about your life or about yourself or about the way that you experience the world. You can let go of those stories as a way of making room for telling a new story, one that more accurately reflects the life that you want to live, right? That's the whole point. So once we're done with talking about this particular full moon, I'll run through the rising signs and let you know, depending on your sidereal rising sign, what house this particular full moon is falling into for you. And that way you can jot down the themes of that house if you want to work with it in the location that it falls in your chart by house system. This is done using a whole house system. And then at the end, what we'll do is we'll go through some prompts and we'll explore what it is we can let go of and write out our statement of release, and then we'll let it go. We'll let it go at the end. It'll be a lot of fun. But really, we're recognizing what's not serving us any longer. This is a time to honor that and to honor our own recognition of that. The full moon in December is on the 22nd, so we're just early of it. This is kind of bringing a crescendo of conversation, of commerce, of travel right before year's end, right? The world is kind of collectively wrapping up another calendar year. And so that's really kind of how we're experiencing this particular full moon in Sidereal Gemini. So if you need to wrap up any mental pursuit or communication, any report or analysis of writing project, homework, If you need to make a pitch of some sort or a presentation, this particular full moon could allow you the opportunity to do that in a really well supported way. Excuse me, but you'll want to use these last days of December to kind of finalize any details and wrap up any unfinished business from 2018. You want to be able to make a clean, fresh start early in the coming year, and this is a great time to be thinking about what major initiation you'd like to make early next year, because we will, for a period of, I don't know if I did the math, I think it's about 10 weeks. I might not have done the math on that. We'll have the support of every planet in the solar system during that time frame in direct motion all at the same time. So that's a perfect opportunity to be making some really strongly supported initiations. And so that's why you want to use the full moon in Gemini to wrap up this year. Okay, so this is all kind of flowing just like it should. So be thinking about what major initiation you want to make next year. You have the opportunity to make 2 or 3 pretty solid initiations early in the year. Go ahead and make your New Year's resolution as normal if you're the type to do that, but don't start it until after the first new moon of the year. We have the first new moon and Uranus stationing direct really close to each other, and that's the best time once those 2 events happen to make your initiation. So, make a resolution, but don't act on it until after, I would say after the 7th. That would be the best time to take your first steps towards whatever your New Year's resolution is. Okay, this is in January. It's a major new moon. It's a solar eclipse in fire sign Sagittarius. And we're going to have a stellium of planets in Sagittarius at that new moon. So it's going to activate the entire stellium. So this particular eclipse coming up at the beginning of January has the potential to affect those of us who will be directly affected. It has the potential to affect us in many different areas of life concurrently. Or whatever happens for us could have other effects in other unrelated areas of life. And so this will be an interesting eclipse to experience. Pay attention to the weeks around January 6th for news. Right now, with the full moon, you'll want to be paying attention for news related to the late January full moon lunar eclipse in Cancer. Okay. The reason why you want to be watching for news now, as the sun passes over the eclipse degree in an adjacent sign, it'll activate the eclipse, and it can activate it early or late for certain readers. Some folks have already gotten their news related to these 2 eclipses last month in November. Some folks are getting their news this month in December. Not big groups of people, but some folks will notice. The rest of us are going to get our eclipse news if we're affected in January itself. But you do want to be keeping an eye out right now for the possibility of eclipse news being delivered to you. Okay, so that's 2 months before and 2 months after the eclipses that you want to be keeping an eye on things, right? So if you have a planet or personal point at 5 or 6 degrees of Cancer, or one of the water signs, Scorpio or Pisces, or one of the earth signs, Capricorn, Virgo, or Taurus, that's the degree, and those are the signs that you want to pay attention to. And if you have a planet or personal point near 5 or 6 degrees of a water sign or an earth sign, you could feel the late January eclipse quite personally, and you could be getting your news right around the full moon in Gemini tomorrow. Okay. Let's see what other dates are important. I would say that's especially important to keep an eye on, especially if you were born around July 22nd or 23rd too. So if you're a Cancer baby born around the 22nd or 23rd, you will definitely feel this particular eclipse in late January personally. So I would call you definitely to be paying attention to the days around this particular full moon in Gemini. Okay. But most of us who are affected are going to hear our news in January. Also on the 6th, we were talking about, that's the first eclipse of the year. It's going to bring major changes. For that particular eclipse, if you're curious, we'll talk more about it at the next new moon. But for that particular eclipse, if you're curious, have a look at your chart for planets or points at 20 degrees of Sagittarius, or one of the fire or air signs. The closer to 20 degrees that you have a planet or personal point, the more directly you're going to be affected by the early January new moon solar eclipse in Sagittarius. Okay. But remember, the main thing that I want you to keep in mind when I'm having you look at these dates and these signs is that eclipses bring change beyond our power to control. Okay. This is change that's going to happen for better or for worse, and it just demands that we adapt to whatever those new circumstances are in which we find ourselves. The reason you want to watch for your news is so that you can understand what change it is that eclipse is bringing for you. Okay, and so you can better prepare. I'll share a link. How about that? Let me see if I saved it. I might have to go get a link. I'll share a link for you for a refresher on the Eclipse Essentials video, and that way if you want to do kind of a refresher. If I don't have it here in my notes, I'll get it after the broadcast and I'll share it in the comments. Okay. But yes, we're heading into eclipse season. January is going to be in full swing. Just keep an eye out for major changes or for any kind of information to come to light that you may not have had access to, whether that's because it was hidden from you, you weren't able to uncover the information, if it was a secret or other kind of deception. Watch for news around unknown information to be revealed at eclipse time. That's one of the important things that eclipses do for us, is they bring us access to information that we didn't previously have. If you have Aries rising, let's get to the rising signs. If you have Aries rising by your sidereal natal chart, this is a 3rd house full moon for you. So that has to do with travel and communication that happens nearby. Childhood education falls under the 3rd house. Siblings, neighbors, your extended family like aunts and uncles and cousins fall under the 3rd house, and so does your immediate environment. If you have Taurus rising, this is a 2nd house full moon for you. So this has to do with wealth and possessions, movable assets, earned income, expenses, that sort of thing. But the 2nd house can also be tied to themes of self-worth and our own personal value systems. For Gemini, this is a 1st house full moon. So personality and identity could come up with this particular full moon. Self-expression. Themes around the physical body or your appearance. Those are topics that could come up at this particular full moon, or even having to do with your role in the world if you have Gemini rising. If you have Cancer rising, it's going to be a 12th house full moon. So this is privacy and seclusion. It's secrets, potentially spirituality and the unconscious mind. Highly personal projects or private projects, solo projects, things you do behind closed doors fall under the 12th house. And then so do your spiritual practices or institutions of seclusion. So if you work with nursing homes, boarding schools, prisons, correctional facilities, hospitals, things like that, those could be themes for folks who have Cancer rising with a 12th house full moon. If you have Leo rising, it's going to be an 11th house full moon. So this is friends, organizations, hopes, and dreams fall under the 11th house. Your social activity, your social life falls under the 11th house. Virgo, it's a 10th house full moon for you. So career and awards, recognition, achievement, fame, status and reputation, those sorts of things. For Libra, it's a 9th house full moon. So we're talking about higher education and long distance travel, long distance communication. So things like publishing or broadcasting, any type of messaging that reaches either a large audience or crosses a long distance to reach its audience. But also religion, philosophy, and law fall under the 9th house. For Scorpio rising, this is an 8th house full moon for you. So other people's resources that are at your disposal. Investment earnings, insurance, taxes, debts that you have, those are 8th house. Inheritances, bonus or commission income, the occult, death, rebirth, and transformation. Psychology and mystery are themes of the 8th house. Sagittarius, this is a 7th house full moon for you. So partnerships, this is a theme. Marriage or business partnerships, your relationships with other people in general can fall under the 7th house. And the 7th house can also speak to what we reject about ourselves and what we project onto other people. Okay. For Capricorn rising, this is a 6th house full moon for you. So work, health, pets, daily routines, employees, if you have them, your schedule, habits fall under the 6th house. And Aquarius, it's a 5th house full moon for you. So creativity, children, romance, and true love, not marriage, remember. Partnership is Venus, which is 7th house, right? 5th house rules the heart. It's the natural house of Leo, rules the heart, okay? Pleasurable activities fall under 5th house, as do sports, gambling, risk-taking, hobbies. Finally, Pisces, this is a 4th house full moon for you. So home, family, and real estate, later life, your parents, and that can be one or both parents. But if you're joining late, or if you're catching the replay and you're not 100% sure, I would definitely use the calculator and make sure you're working with the correct sun or rising sign for tonight's broadcast. And like I said, if you joined us late, you can always let me know in the comments what your sidereal rising sign is, and I'll recap for you what house the full moon is falling in and what the themes of that house is for you. That way, if you'd like to work specifically with your house for the full moon releasing practice, you can do that. But in the meantime, what we'll do is we'll talk a little bit about Gemini archetypes and Gemini themes, and explore what it is about Gemini that we can release and let go of with this particular full moon energy. Gemini is the archetype of the twins, right? It's the sign of the twins, Castor and Pollux, Cain and Abel. Sometimes you might see that Gemini depicted as Adam and Eve. Okay, so Gemini is ruled by Mercury. It's the sign of the messenger. It's the sign of communication, right? It's an air sign. So Gemini is the storyteller, right? Is the messenger of the gods, ruled by Mercury. Mercury was the messenger of the gods. So Mercury is the wanderer, the student, the teacher, and the trickster. Those are themes of Gemini, right? Gemini is also the writer and the communicator, the journalist or the witness or the historian, essentially. Okay, the person who keeps the records of events and transactions, any type of record worth keeping. But what are some of the more negative expressions of Gemini that we can embody if we're not paying attention? Being a busybody, that can be a characteristic of Gemini, right? Talking too much or gossiping. Being superficial. Gemini has the characteristic of being superficial and not going deep enough, having a little bit of knowledge about a broad variety of topics, right? Rather than very deep expert or mastery type of knowledge of a particular field. So being superficial, not going deep enough. Intellectual, that is a theme of Gemini, right? So not physically engaged with the world, being in their head, right? Or being detail-oriented, which can be good and bad, right? And in a more negative connotation, we tend to think of being myopic as being an obstacle or being a handicap, right? But Gemini energy is Gemini that can see us constantly telling stories about how things are or were, and perpetuating those stories. And I may need to excuse myself for just a moment. We have found a jingle toy right in the middle of the live broadcast, so I might have to go. Hi, miss. Do you want to come up here and join us? This is Penny. She might come up here and say hi. Sorry about that. But the idea is we want to take the time tonight to explore where in our lives we're constantly telling stories about what we're experiencing, whether it's a story about our past or a story that explains or excuses why we are where we are today, right? Or even, rationalizing decisions or consequences or outcomes, or why we can't have what we want. These are things that we get caught up in, behaviors we get caught up in doing that are unhealthy expressions of that Gemini communicating and storytelling type of energy. And hold on, I'm going to grab this. I'm going to grab this toy. Hey, Penny, can I have these? Thank you. She thinks I'm going to throw them for her down the hall, but I'm not. We're just going to set them right there on the desk until after the broadcast. Thanks for letting me interrupt, just to take care of that. But we want to explore tonight where we're getting attached to these stories. Where are we getting attached to adjectives and descriptors? Things like victimhood or excuses or rationalizations or explanations of why you can't have what you want or can't be successful or why you will never make it, or even complaining, if complaining is a habit we've fallen into. Okay, so tonight what we're going to do is spend some time writing out what it is we want to let go of, any outdated stories that you're telling about your life. Make room so that you can begin crafting a new story that tells about the life that you truly intend for yourself. So grab your pen and paper. I'm going to read through some prompts here for you to think about as you write out what it is you want to let go of. Are you telling a story about your life or your experience that's not serving you any longer? Can you let go of your attachment to that story long enough to write a new one that captures your belief in what's possible? Or consider, where are you being superficial? What is it that's keeping you from going deeper in either a particular area of your life or in a certain subject, a certain topic that's important to you, or towards a particular goal, something that you're working on? Is it a lack of interest or a lack of excitement? Or is there a fear of something that's keeping you from going deep? What might you need to let go of in order to go deeper and get out of superficiality? Are you being negatively superficial? So this is kind of a spin on that second prompt there. Are you being negatively superficial? Are you engaging in gossip or idle chit chat, Facebook, social media? Things like this that are either harmful or wasteful of your time and energy. Now is a good time to release any attachments you might have to those sorts of behaviors or to social media platforms that you might be spending too much time on, or even in conversations that you might be investing too much time and energy. Are you focusing too much on the details? Are you losing sight of the bigger picture? That's a good one to explore for tonight. Are you focusing too much attention on detail, and is that slowing down your forward progress? Are you getting lost in the weeds, right? And losing focus in general, okay? Do you need to take a step back and get some perspective, whether that's on a situation or a person or an experience or a circumstance, okay? And now can also be a good time to kind of metaphorically let go of someone or something, especially if it's someone or something outside of our control, outside of our responsibility, outside of our concern, especially if it's a situation or other kind of drama, and release our attachment to the outcome or the condition or the circumstance surrounding that person or situation. To choose to let go of something that you don't have any control over, that it's a practice. It's called surrender, right? If you can surrender to it, and enter it with just trust that whatever happens will happen for your highest good. If you can do that and let go of your attachment to any particular outcome, with the eclipses on the horizon, this can be a wonderful time to do that and just to embrace permanent lasting change that is going to allow you to move forward, and especially move forward even faster here within the next month or two. Okay, so just some things to consider, and I'll recap these real quick, but grab your pen and paper and write out now that you've had some chance to spur some ideas and get some creative juices flowing, write out what it is you are ready to move past or let go of or release with this particular full moon. And then we're going to finish up with a statement and the actual releasing practice. So release any outdated stories that you've been telling about your life, especially if they're not serving you any longer, letting go of attachments to those stories, especially if those stories have particular adjectives and descriptors that you identify with attached to them, right? Let go of being superficial, let go of not going deep enough, whether that's due to lack of interest or excitement or fear, okay? Or let go of negative superficiality, things like gossip or idle chit-chat, time-wasting behavior, any kind of attachment to devices or apps or social media, especially that are around communication. Or letting go of your attachment and focus on the details. Letting go of being so wrapped up in the details that you're losing focus on the bigger picture, on the long-term goal. Okay? Or to just let go of a situation or a person or an experience or a circumstance that's outside of your control. Okay? So take a few moments and write it out, and then we're done if you're willing. You can share in the comments what it is you'd like to let go of tonight. Okay, it's kind of a big one. I know how this is going for everyone else. If you need more time to write out what it is you are letting go of or releasing tonight with the full moon, let me know in the comments. I didn't really look ahead to what the topic was for me, and so this is kind of, I never really work out ahead of time what I might release. I just do it live, and so I wasn't really planning to think about first house stuff with this particular full moon. And I've been kind of rethinking how to do what it is I do, how to offer the services that I can provide, how to meet the needs of the folks that I serve in a way that serves them best, and how to best allocate my time and energy and skill in service, right? And so I've been thinking about this a lot lately, especially going through December. I've been thinking ahead to, do I want to change things up? Do I want to tweak things going into next year to find better ways to serve people and to let go of doing things that maybe aren't as helpful or aren't benefiting you in the ways that you best need, right? So what I wrote down tonight, with this being a first house full moon for me, that I release any attachment to thinking that I need to be something to everyone. I allow myself to focus my time, energy, and attention to serving those who most resonate with what I do and with what I offer. That feels right. That feels good. And it feels like it's a good time to move beyond any kind of attachment that I might have in that way. As I start thinking about, well, what do I want to do? What does the future look like, right? What does next year look like? What is the new thing look like? So let me see. I've got flame here. So when we release, write out what it is that we're wanting to let go of, right? And then we have our actual, the ritual, the releasing part of it, which I burn mine. You can burn your paper. Do it in a fire safe place, please. Or you can tear it up into little pieces. Either works equally well. It's a symbolic gesture that just reinforces your willingness to let go of what it is you want to move past tonight with the full moon. Okay? And so I'm going to burn mine. If you do burn yours, I suggest do it in a fire-safe place and make sure that it burns completely. Okay? But you can do this in your kitchen sink, or in a fire pit, or a fireplace, or in a barbecue. Just be safe and you can keep a fire extinguisher handy, please. But let it go. And as you burn it, you just state aloud your intention to release it. So I release this attachment to needing to be something for everyone in terms of what I do. I release any attachment to that need, that desire. I allow myself to serve in the ways that I'm most called to serve. Angela says, I'm releasing looking outside of myself for happiness. That is an excellent one. I like that. Rosalind says, it's been a rough month for me. My attorney quit on me today and my disability claim is in 2 weeks. I feel so unheard all the time. And I think it's my fault for not knowing how to speak up properly. It's been so hard. I don't feel it's necessary to let go of this claim until it's fully over and that I have a chance to speak up. Hopefully, I really want to be done with all the indirect communication and finally make a decision already. I hear you there. Full moons can bring conclusions and endings, and so you may get the benefit of that with your claim, especially if you do have a hearing coming up in a couple of weeks. But I would definitely, Rosalind, I would have a look at your chart and see if you have contact with either of the upcoming eclipses, just to kind of get an idea of what and where you need to be on the lookout for news, especially if this is something that you've been working on for some time, say 6 months or 18 months or a year. Any kind of extended period of time, there's a good chance that you could see a resolution going forward. I would say maybe in the next 30 to 60 days, depending on how these particular full moons and on how the eclipses touch your chart. Okay. So if you haven't read up on the December monthly overview with short reports, definitely read up. We only have a little bit, about 10 more days left in the month, right? So there's only a little bit left to cover with the December overview and short reports. The January overview and short reports are going to be available here in the next couple of days. So I will post for all of you when those are ready. They're just going through some finishing stages right now. And like I said, yes, I'm thinking about switching some things up for the new year, so I'll talk more on that as I've kind of settled into some decisions about what I want to do, what I want to offer for you. But stay tuned for announcements on that. And, oh, here is the link that I promised you on the Eclipse Essentials. I did have it in my notes. All right. In case you need a refresher on how eclipses work, what to do, what to expect, how best to navigate them, that's a link to the blog post with a video where we go over that. And then also, this is kind of new too, and I'll share a link for you here. So this year, we've had some requests for this in the past, and I haven't done it before, but now I'm offering it. I just started this about, I don't know, maybe a week or, well, earlier in December. How about? Maybe right around when Mercury stationed direct. So you can get your Ultimate Astrological Planner personalized now. It takes me a little bit longer to make it, so you got to be patient. It takes about 2 to 4 extra weeks to put your planner together. But if you order a personalized Ultimate Astrological Planner, what you'll do is at checkout, give me your date, time, and place of birth, and I'll update your planner to have your daily transits, so transits to your natal planets, and to have your personal best days for love, luck, and business color-coded, along with, of course, the Mercury retrograde and the Mercury retrograde shadow period. but we'll tailor it to your exact birth date, time, and place so that you know how you in particular are going to be touched by the year's transits, and you'll know at a glance when the best time to take action on love or luck or business related issues. So if you're interested in getting the personalization, this is a separate offer from the regular planner. Don't buy the regular planner. You'd want to just buy the personalization listing, and give me that information as you check out. So you can tell me whether you want the serial or tropical zodiac. You can tell me whether you want the disc bound or the comb bound planner, if you just want the refill. And you can tell me what cover you want. But that's the listing that you want, the personalized Ultimate Astrological Planner upgrade. If you want to have your own personal transits to your natal planets for the year in your planner. But that's a new offer, and it's been really well received. I'm getting quite a few orders for those, but like I said, remember, it takes 2 to 4 weeks for me to get that prepared for you before I can get it in the mail. So be thinking ahead if that's what you think you might want. Order in advance of when you know you'll need it, okay? Because it could take me a little while to get it too. And let me see what else is in my notes. I think that is it. That's it. Other than, don't forget to follow us on Facebook and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Those are all awesome things. That way you can stay in the loop whenever we have a broadcast and you don't ever miss one of the videos. I'm going to double check and see if there's any further comments or questions from anyone. But thank you all for joining. Oh, I knew you were joining, Danielle. I knew you were joining, and Angela's here. See, I didn't get to see all these notifications on my phone that you all joined. Let's see. Charlie and William were here. Danielle, where's your comment? Here we go. Danielle says, I gave up on siblings. My dad is dying. Commutating with my husband. Started going back to the veteran administration, hoping to get my jaw working again and counting on yourself and not others. Yes, no matter what happens. Yes. That's an excellent approach, Danielle. Releasing that attachment to needing other people. To do something or to be something or to say a thing, right? Relying on yourself sets you up to be in a stronger position, and then when you do have that outside assistance from others, it can be supplemental, but not, kind of a do or die type of thing. You've got a lot on your plate though. So, and we need to talk. I know you and I need to talk. And that actually does remind me of a particular thing I did want to mention. So, because I have been a lot more booked lately, partly because we're going into year end, partly because it's the holiday season. So we have a lot more orders being processed, and partly because I'm offering the personalization on the planners. If you need me, if you need my services, I would say you want to get your reading purchased and your time booked as soon as possible, just because I'm starting to see my calendar fill up further out and further out. And I would hate to have to, turn you down and say, sorry, I can't see you just because I'm too booked out. So I just want to give folks a heads up on that. It's a good thing. It's a good problem to have, right? And as we get through the holiday season, I'm sure things will kind of calm down and settle out. But I just wanted to give you a heads up. If you need me, get with me and I'll get you whatever links to my calendar or links to whatever kind of reading you need to book right away so that we can get you scheduled. Danielle says, sad but true. It is. And that's unfortunate. It's good to have you with us, Jonna. You joined us late. We were just wrapping up the full moon in Gemini releasing practice. I will keep an eye out, though, on the comments if you're watching the replay and you want to share what it is you are letting go of or releasing with tonight's full moon. Please do. And I'll be sure to get this uploaded to the YouTube channel right away for those of you who are catching the replay through YouTube. But thank you all for joining me tonight, and we'll see you again next time. Bye.